David Heurtel is joining us to discuss all of the latest. And boy, the news is moving fast today. But first, I want to tell you that this segment is brought to you by Can-Air Heat Pump or Furnace from Guaranteed Industries. Call 514-342-3400. Your air conditioning professionals since 1957. They'll help you prepare for the winter. David Heurtel, how are you? Thank you so much for taking the time.
Doing fantastic, Joanne. How are you?
I am, this is, I said it, I keep saying it feels like whiplash, okay? So everything is changing. That is the one constant, okay? We're talking about the cabinet shuffle. Marc Miller's back. Wonder how that conversation went. Let's talk about that first. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, I'm happy that what is now called, what was formerly, also everything you say, everything is changing. Also, the ministry names keep changing because what I knew for many years as Canadian heritage, which is now cultural identities and whatnot.
Yes.
I'm happy. One, Marc Miller is a seasoned minister. First of all, two, from Montreal. So Montreal keeps culture. And from my point of view, it's very good for Montreal, very good for Quebec. So Marc Miller, of course, an MP here on the island of Montreal, seasoned cabinet minister, understands the Quebec and the Quebec identity. He's perfectly bilingual. Understands also official languages and the different controversies with that, as we all know. So I would say that's actually a good save for Mark Carney in terms of keeping Quebec, because culture is going to be a big piece for Carney's maintaining his lead here in Quebec, especially if we're looking at a future maybe PQ government, or at least
we don't know.
Well, if an election were held today, we do know. But
yes.
But of course, it's 9-10 months from now. But with the PQ and the nationalist vibe, gaining some steam here in Quebec, culture is going to be, of course, at the forefront. So with Marc Miller and Quebec and Montreal keeping culture, that's important. Joe Lightbound, major promotion for him, becomes Quebec lieutenant. So just remember how, this says a lot about how in politics fortunes can change. A few years ago, when under the Trudeau regime, when he actually stepped out and called out Justin Trudeau very publicly, people were saying he may be out completely of the Liberal caucus.
Yeah.
And people were talking, well, maybe a way for him to step out was going for the Quebec Liberal leadership. And here he is now, basically the number one guy in terms of politics for Marc Carney in Quebec. It's a big promotion also for Quebec City. It shows the importance, because he's a Quebec City MP, shows the importance of Quebec City for Marc Carney. So huge promotion for him. Obviously, I mean, it doesn't take anything away from François-Philippe Champagne or Mélanie Joly, who are obviously senior cabinet ministers from Quebec, but a big step up for Joel Lightbound for sure.
Yeah, very, very big decisive moves there from Marc Carney. Okay, we have to talk about that big protest that happened on Saturday, okay? These were Quebec's major unions announcing Bill 3, okay? I want you, if you can, David, because I think a lot of people get confused on this limiting the right to strike bill, okay? Paint the picture for us as to what exactly this means and how the Quebec government is sort of getting away with this.
Well, this is Bill 14, and this has come up, several times over the last few years, and the most recent example is the recent STM strike, and you saw this, Joanne. You covered this at length on your show. How basically while the union had was exercising its right to strike, it was basically disabling for a major part of the population. I mean, we saw the images. We won't go over everything, but we saw like ordinary people, couldn't get to work. Businesses were hurt. It was fundamentally disabling. And at the same time, we have an essential services law that usually will say, well, for certain types of services, strikes, you can't close down a hospital because of a strike. You can't close down completely an emergency room because of a strike, right?
Yeah.
Because of essential services. But there was this hole. So the Legault government felt that there was this hole that wasn't covered by essential services, and yet was still going beyond what the right to strike should be able to do. The right to strike is to create a balance between unionized workers and people that run the businesses, and so the idea here was to say, well, there's something wrong with this balance, and so in certain cases, you cannot strike to the point where you are basically creating an imbalance and creating a situation where society is affected
this is
negatively.
But this is where I'm confused, right? Because we do have the essential services provisions, right? So
Yeah.
this feels, to me, little old me, that this is, again, another government overreach, right? And
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, and we see this. People are on the streets because this is the devil's in the details in this one, right? So who decides and how is it decided and what exactly goes beyond? How do we determine whether that delicate balance between the employers and the unions has gone one way or the other?
And there's the rub. And this is a totally valid point, and it's a totally valid debate. Now, obviously, if you're more on the unionized workers side of things, you'll say this is an overreach, and ultimately this will end up in the courts. Because the rights for union workers to strike, this has been guaranteed now for decades.
It seems fundamental. It seems fundamental.
Yes, it's almost a fundamental right. Yeah. But it's been something that's been entrenched, and there's a lot of case law and a lot of jurisprudence to protect that. The thing is now the Legault government is going all out. They're going after doctors, they're going after unions, they're going on identity. This is a very deliberate strategy to try to save this government that is heading towards, we're talking about the elections in 9-10 months. Again, we don't know what will happen, but right now, if an election were held tomorrow, the CAQ would be basically extinct. And so this is part of the strategy. They're going hard right, and they're going after what was a fundamentally settled issue, the right to strike. But they feel with the polling, they feel with the current situation. Like, for example, just if you look at the STM strike specifically, if you would poll Quebecers, and we see it through the polling, the political polling. I mean, there wasn't a lot of support for the STM union workers, and while there are other issues, and you could say that the STM as an employer maybe had some issues that they were maybe that they had to negotiate in good faith. The fact is that there seems to be an excess, and there seems to be examples where the population is saying maybe unions are going too far. But this is also this has to be political. Your point is well taken, Joanne. But right now, what we need to understand that this is purely political ploys. Like, again, everything else that's being debated, with the unions, with union dues and everything, and assemblies and how they're conducted, and transparency on expenses. Where does all this come from? It comes from the SCM strike. It comes from Magali Picard taking, I don't know how many, 10, 12, 15 people to a COP. This comes from, the FTQ construction head, whining and dining himself and his executive at, with buying $60 Scotch glasses, and so there's all these examples that have now put unions in a negative light, and François Legault and the CAQ is trying to exploit that politically and trying to build political capital. But again, it becomes a societal choice now that Legault is trying to disturb here and change. And ultimately, it's going to be up to the courts to see if that can hold up.
And we run out of time, David, but I mean, it's like, what's next?
Well, it's a deep, complex conversation.
No, but I mean, listen, I went to law school. I understand how some of this stuff works. I understand a lot of what's going on here, but the strategy to me seems to be, well, we're going to knock people over the head with these new laws, and hopefully they want us to stick around. So,
well, they want to build political capital and try to win back any type of support. I mean, we even touched this, and I'm going completely left field, and I'll end on this, Joanne. But for example, there's the same type of very, very complex political debate right now around the fact that on Bill 1, on the Quebec Constitution, the right to abortion is entrenched, and the pro-abortion movement. The right to abortion movement, they're not pro-abortion, but the right to abortion movement, the pro-choice is saying you should not put it in the Constitution because it would actually create legal challenges. While right now it's a health treatment.
Yeah, that is a big one, David Heurtel, and we're going to save that one for another time because it is really interesting. David Heurtel, thank you so much for taking the time.
Introducing Bryan Adams Radio on iHeartRadio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
Join me for an insider look on a wild ride through 40 years of global rock and roll.
Bryan Adams Radio. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app. Or ask your smart speaker to play Bryan Adams Radio on iHeartRadio.
Who's ready to rock?
Kids wanna rock.